Hello and welcome to Team Reptile Adventures. We're joined by our campers, the first session of the 2005 Summer Team Reptile Camps, and we're out at Shiawassee Basin Preserve at the trailhead. We're going to go out here and explore the area. Our main goal today, other than to find some exciting wildlife, is to do a data count or a count of species within a certain area. There's an area we call Amphibian Alley, and there's two different sides there that we often look for salamanders and frogs. That's why we call it Amphibian Alley. Today we're going to look and try to get a count of the number of redback salamanders we find there, both leadback and redback of the same species, and also blue spotted, possibly spotted salamanders, and also the spring peepers and wood frogs and even American toads that we might find back there. We started making our way along the trails toward Amphibian Alley, but decided to first spend some time checking out an area where we often find snakes. Because this field has a lot of undergrowth as well as logs and stumps and other hiding places, it provides a great habitat for a few different species of snakes. It didn't take the group too long before they started spotting snakes and were even able to catch one.
I see one. It's a big one. Right here. Right there. Right there. Got it.
You got it?
Here, I'll help
Watch
you.
your feet, Evan.
Need help?
Wait, no, don't pull it. You're gonna hurt him.
Here, I'll grab him by the throat. Got him. Got him. Hold him. Here.
Careful, careful. Let them.
That one's
There you go. Work them into your hands.
there.
The campers had done a really nice job both spotting this large common garter snake as well as catching it. After everyone got a chance to check the snake out, we let it go back where we found it and then continued searching for some other snakes. As we explored this field, the campers found quite a few different common garter snakes, and I had even spotted and missed a northern ribbon snake, which I really wanted to be able to show the campers. It definitely took me a little while, but I was finally able to locate this snake again and catch it. What is it?
Ribbon.
Yeah, how do we know it's a ribbon snake?
The line stand out.
Looks like it's coming in ahead. Lines stand out. Anything else?
It's belly.
Belly. What color's the belly?
Well, it's like a palish, but it's got like a stripe coming down that's like orange.
Kind of a pale yellow, real smooth. If we find another garter snake, I don't want to keep this one, but if we find another garter snake, we'll really get to see. This is definitely a female. All ribbon snakes and garter snakes, even water snakes, they all give live birth rather than lay eggs. So they've already went through the breeding cycle. The males and the females, when they come out of the hibernaculum, they generally breed. Now, if a bunch of them hibernate together, it makes sense, right, when they come out to go ahead and breed instead of trying to find each other later. If you're already hanging out together. And then the female starts to develop the babies inside her in real thin membranes. So it looks like a jelly sack when they come out. But instead of laying eggs like the turtles do and like
Frogs.
some snakes and all the frogs will lay eggs and the salamanders lay some type of egg. Well, these guys will actually, the ribbon snakes and garter snakes will actually have the babies come right out of that vent area. Why do you guys think she's moving kind of slow right now?
It's hard to carry those eggs inside her.
Hard to carry everything. She's feeding more than just herself, which I think she's pregnant. I'm not positive, but I think she's pregnant.
Kind of uses a lot of energy.
Used a lot of energy. We really wore her down, right? I mean, that's twice we chased her. So, because we pulled up the same log, and I know we saw a ribbon snake, and it was probably her because it was in this area. but she really seems to be worn out, so I'm going to let her go here in a second. The only other thing I want to point out with the ribbon snake is how big their eyes are. That's another way to tell. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but the eyes really stand out on the head. They almost stand out a little further than like the garter snakes are usually. There's no ridge. If you look at the top, I'll pass her around. If you look at the top and look at her eyes, see how they they almost bubble out a little bit. And when we find a garter snake, they generally don't bubble out like that. Also, the tail almost looks like a whip, right? Especially when they're not pregnant or they're a male. What'll happen is they'll start tapering right up about here, and it'll look like a long whip in back, where the garter snakes is usually thicker at the end. Before we were going to let this ribbon snake go, we wanted to make sure that all of our campers got an opportunity to get a good look at the tail, vent, underbelly, scoots, and the eyes of this beautiful animal. We had a ribbon snake for quite a while that we called Bo. The reason we called her Bo is when she was wrapped around us, she would start like looping around and almost tie herself up like a bow. Because you know what you do with the ribbon? Tie it up like a bow. Everybody get that?
Put it on.
You learned a lot here at Team Reptile Camp today, didn't you? Guess what we learned today, Mom and Dad? We learned that we can tie a ribbon into a bow.
And we take ribbon snakes and tie them on papers.
No. Yeah, that'd be a nice surprise. Oh, maybe we should market those, though. We should market ribbons that look like snakes to put on presents. But that would throw a lot of people.
And we'll get an electronic snake and
Make it move?
Me open the present.
Alright, we'll let her go.
That log has to be your safe spot for her to return toys.
Now everybody take like 2 steps back. And what I'm going to do is, you know how we talked about leaving the log there and then letting them crawl underneath. So if I put her down, yep, there she goes. She's crawling right underneath. Because if we try to set it back down, we might not set it back down where it leaves the pocket underneath, the empty pocket of space.
We'll crush her.
And we could crush her. Or worse yet, even pin her. Well, I guess crushing her would kill her probably, but imagine if we just pinned her tail and she couldn't move. You know, she'd be stuck there and eventually die anyway. So this way, she crawls under. Alright, time to get all our stuff. And we found quite a few snakes. We can probably head back up.
Good find.
Very cool. We left the area that Connor, who's one of our campers, had now named Snake Meadow and made our way over to Amphibian Alley. One of the discussions that we have with the campers before we come to Amphibian Alley is about how important it is to walk carefully, making sure to never step on animals or even logs or bark that may be the hiding place of an animal. Although we want to be able to provide our campers with hands-on education with amphibians within their habitats, we also want to do as much as we can to keep the animals safe while we're there. 2 of our early finds within Amphibian Alley were redback salamanders, which were discovered by Aaron and Colin. That's one we should take a measurement of. Let me go see if I got my tape measure. A baby leadback. One of the other important issues we discussed with our Team Reptile campers is the fact that amphibians absorb a lot of things through their skin, including moisture and oxygen. That is why we do our best to limit the number of amphibians that we actually touch, since our hands tend to have oils, repellents, and other things on them that can rub off on an amphibian's skin. Once these things get on their skin, it can block their ability to absorb oxygen and moisture, or worse yet, even poison them. When we do handle amphibians, especially salamanders, we try to keep our fingers off their heads and back and allow them to just sit and crawl in our hands, just like the way that Aaron and Colin are doing. This helps to at least limit the contact to just their feet being what touches our skin. Although they are called redback salamanders, they often lack the red coloration for which they get their name. When a redback salamander lacks the red coloration, it is therefore considered a leadback, which is a term used to describe the salamanders that Aaron and Colin had caught. Once we had recorded some data about these 2 salamanders, Aaron and Colin took them back to where they had found them and let them go. As this was happening, Zach was bringing up a very exciting find of his own, which was a wriggling tail of a redback salamander.
That's a leadback's tail.
How does it do that?
It's to distract any
Predators.
so it doesn't attack their head, it attacks the tail. Because they can regenerate their tail. See, the body loses a tail, but then when the body can regenerate a new tail so that the predator goes for this.
Did you see it drop off his tail, or did you just find
No,
it?
I just found it sitting under a log. I thought it was a baby leadback, but
This is just wild. Very cool.
It was absolutely amazing to us to see how long that tail laid there wriggling. As Zach had stated, some salamanders and also some species of lizards can detach their tail, which also has nerve impulses which will keep it wiggling for a while once it's detached. This will usually allow the salamander or lizard to slowly crawl away while the predator remains focused on the faster movements of the tail. Not long after Zach had found the tail, Max found what we believed to be the salamander that had lost it.
I got a leadback without a tail.
that's probably the leadback tail that I found.
Could be. Is he missing a lot of his tail or just part?
Part. Yeah, it looks like it could be it.
Really?
Looks pretty fresh.
Okay.
Poor little guy.
Yeah, but the nice part is, and it does look very fresh. Nice part is, the tail will grow back. So, but isn't that a cool defense mechanism? I mean, what's the first thing you're going to grab? Or a predator's going to grab?
Tail.
Yeah, the thing
Because
that's
it's the
wiggling, right?
closest
I mean, they
thing
see
to
something
it.
wiggling, and most animals go after movement. If you go after movement, you're going to go for the thing that's moving the most. So.
My gecko can detach her tail.
Can it?
Yeah.
Probably haven't done it intentionally, though, have you?
No.
How long does it take for the
'Cause that
tail
would
to
be
grow
wrong.
back?
You
About
know,
a month.
yeah, I was going to say, I don't know for sure on the redbacks, but I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. It definitely takes some time, and it's real slow, and they won't grow, it won't look the same. It'll be a little stubby in the end. Each time they lose it, it gets a little stubbier. So if it lost it a bunch of times, it probably wouldn't even have a tail anymore.
You watch your back now.
Should I let it go now? There's already two.
Yeah.
As Max went to let the leadback without a tail go, some of the other campers had another awesome find. Oh my goodness, that is very impressive. Go ahead and put him there. Be really gentle. Let's see if he'll walk in. That is very cool. Wow, he ate something recently, didn't he?
Yeah.
Why don't you guys come up so everybody can see? And I'll hold it like this in front of you guys.
What we have found is a baby spotted salamander. It's not called a yellow spotted salamander because they can have orange spots instead of yellow ones.
Yep, and this one is actually probably, I'm guessing probably about 2 years old at best, because they start out in the ponds. They're part of the mole salamander family, which means they actually they hatch from an egg in the water, and they have gills for a while. Usually about a year or two in the water they'll have gills, and I'm guessing probably out here, last summer was fairly chilly, but it wasn't that harsh, so probably they ended up coming out, I'm guessing about a year that it's been in the water with its gills. And then what happens is they start to lose their gills, they develop lungs. As they develop lungs, they start to move on to land and search for a good habitat to live in. Well, this is a great habitat for salamanders. We know that. That's part of the reason we call this amphibian alley. There's also a lot of frogs. But it's a great wooded environment with a lot of downed trees, stumps, especially mole salamander family, which includes the spotted salamander, marbled salamander, tiger salamander, even the blue spotted. They really like to live underground, burrow down under stumps, under logs. And sometimes you get lucky, which Zach is one of the ones who always seems to find these, and he was with Connor and Evan and William. And was Aaron over with you guys too?
She found it.
Oh, cool. Aaron found a big redback. Wow. But these guys just happened to flip over a log and found this one sitting there, and you can tell by its belly that it ate recently. They love worms, slugs, things like that. They actually swallow them whole and will digest them while it's in their belly, basically. While I was still checking out the spotted salamander, Connor and a couple of the other campers brought over a blue spotted salamander, which is also from the mole salamander family.
Can you tell us what it is, Connor?
Oh yeah?
It's a blue spotted salamander.
Yeah, in a minute. Why do they call it a blue spotted?
Because it has blue spots.
Usually, you know what's funny though? Sometimes the spots can be white, but it's still called a blue spotted. But with these guys, because they can have yellow and orange, they tend to call it just a spotted salamander. Although we had been having great luck finding salamanders, we still hadn't found any frogs yet today in Amphibian Alley. All that was about to change, however, with the capture of a young gray tree frog. Gray tree frogs have some incredible adaptations that allow them to survive in a terrestrial environment. One is the fact that they can change the color of their body, which helps to camouflage them against their surroundings. The gray tree frog also has large sticky toe pads, which gives it the ability to climb almost any surface, including Evan here, who had found this frog while it was just hanging out on one of the nearby trees. Soon after Evan had found the gray tree frog, Zach was able to locate and catch another cool species of frog that had been hopping among some leaf litter. Is it a peeper?
Yep.
Oh, very
I never
cool.
saw a peeper.
Oh, that is awesome. Look at the coloration on that thing. Spring peepers are small frogs that tend to spend their summers in the woods, where their earth tone colors and incredible leaping ability helps them to both capture prey and evade predators. There you go. Whoa! Spring peepers are obviously in the tree frog family. And yes, peepers are very close relatives to the common gray tree frog, although they are not as strong of climbers and they can't change their color quite as much as the gray tree frogs can. We had found a good variety of salamander and frog species here in Amphibian Alley, with all of them being in their land-dwelling stage of life. To help the campers better understand the stages of development in amphibians, I wanted to take them to a pond where I knew we would have a good chance to find some amphibians that were in their earlier forms of life. During one of my first scoops into the pond, I pulled up a couple of tadpoles and brought them up onto the land to show them to the group. Yeah, they are. They're good size. The one I think is a bullfrog now that I look at its belly and its fin.
Research around some of the logs around this area.
That's got a lot of spots on it. Yeah, you guys can lift over logs, definitely. Although I was sure the smaller tadpole was definitely a green frog, I was still not 100% sure what the larger one was. I knew that the only way we could determine what species it was to take a closer look at it. Judging by the cream-colored belly as well as the spots on the tail and body, I felt pretty confident that this was a bullfrog tadpole. Now that everyone in the group had gotten a chance to look at the tadpoles and we had determined what species they were for our data numbers, we decided we better get these back in the water. You good? Mm-hmm. I want to get them back in the water.
Right.
That's awesome.
Very cool, huh? Does anybody know why we would be finding green frog and bullfrog tadpoles this early? When they're just now starting to breed?
No.
Zach?
Because they're from breeding last season and they keep the tadpoles from migrating under the bus.
Yep. The green frog and bullfrog tadpoles, you guys usually take at least 1 year. A lot of times they take 2 years before they completely go through metamorphosis. So they'll live in the water for a while. And like some of the ones we saw, the little one I just caught was just a little green frog. It was probably born last year near the end of the summer. And, was a tadpole then, probably will be all the way up, maybe even until next year. Maybe at the end of the summer it'll start coming out. But some of the bullfrogs especially will take up to 3 years before they complete metamorphosis. I was glad that the campers had gotten a chance to see some tadpoles, but I still really wanted them to see the early life form of a salamander before we left the pond. And fortunately, thanks to Zach, that was about to happen. Oh, very cool. Let's get him in water fast. While Zach and Rachel worked to get this salamander larva in some water, one of the other campers had taken a scoop and come up with another salamander larva as well as a spring peeper tadpole. Unlike the bullfrog and green frog tadpoles, the peeper tadpole will go through metamorphosis and move on to land before the end of the summer. The salamander larva, which we felt confident that the smaller one was an eastern newt larva and the larger one was a blue-spotted salamander larva, would also both be leaving the water by the end of the summer. Well, our camp adventures have been very successful this morning, but it was now time for this group to head back for lunch.
Fenton area public schools have outstanding after-school programs at all age levels. Activities range from athletics to fine arts. The schools are able to provide these activities for the students through the commitment of the staff.
The after-school programs here at Fenton is a place to provide a fun and safe environment for our students after school. Currently we offer programs at all the elementary buildings, the 5-6 building, and at the middle school.
Activities are available to the students for the purpose of creating a fun and safe environment after school. They allow students to build social skills through relationships while working together with their peers. The many after-school activities cater to the interest of the students. Through programs like these, our district is able to set itself apart from others in our area. The range and diversity of our after-school activities help to ensure a place for every student within the program. These activities stimulate the mind and facilitate the development of our young learners. The quality education that they receive throughout the school day is reinforced by the positive experiences offered by after-school activities.
Our second session of the 2005 Team Reptile Camps was our smallest group of the summer. This actually gave them a bit of an advantage, allowing them to be more up close and personal during some of our exciting finds, such as the ones we had here at Independence Oaks in Clarkston, Michigan. Let's everybody go up there for a minute, please. What's that?
Oh, we're probably not going to keep this one.
Everybody stand back a little while I grab it, because it's going to do two things.
Bite you.
It might bite me, but more importantly,
Run away.
it's going to spray me.
What is spraying?
Spray, you'll see. You'll see as it starts to spray.
Pee?
Kind of. Remember that stuff we talked about? Look at that. Oh. Oh. What's that?
What is it?
That is, it's a secretion that comes out of what's called their vent. And it's a musky smell. I don't want to hold her too long because, for one thing, well, I'm not, yeah, she probably will, but I'm not as worried about her biting me as I am about stressing her out.
Is it a male or?
This is oh yeah, this is definitely a female. And she might be what's called gravid, which means, anyone know what gravid means? Oh, that is the most I've ever had spray out of one. And that's another reason I don't want to hold her too long. Gravid means to be pregnant. And the more I hold her, the more stress she can get. And the more stress she gets, the better chance that she'll end up losing some of her babies.
Yeah, that's why I thought. That's why I
No,
thought
she's too big. We don't need to keep her.
Yeah,
Look at her
and
roll.
She's pregnant.
If she was picked up by like a hawk or some type of predator, that's what they do. They start rolling to try to get out. I'm just trying to keep her relaxed.
I think. Yeah, I thought it was a female because it was kind of chubby.
Can you guys smell that?
Yeah.
I don't want to get her too close because I don't want you guys to get bit. I'm trying to keep her relaxed. Remember how I told you they pick up chemicals? She might bite me, but I think she's realizing I'm not going to harm her. I'm keeping her nice and relaxed. What's that? Right there? That is, oh, that's where she's releasing some of the stuff. Well, it's actually, it's a musky odor that's a mix of urine, poo-poo, and it's also just a chemical. And it is, I don't know if you guys can smell it. I can't smell it yet, but I will, and like, it's all over her. That's one of the reasons. See how she sprayed it all over herself? Why do you think she'd spray it all, or let it allow to get all over herself? In fact, sometimes they'll secrete it and roll in it. Why do you think, Nathan?
Probably because if you sprayed it on somebody else, it'd just be on them. But when she sprays it on herself, like the predator smells it and he or she wants to get away from it,
Yeah.
as soon as it can.
Imagine if you're a fox or you're a skunk or something that has a strong sense of smell. Yeah, definitely. Imagine if you're one of those animals that has a strong sense of smell and you want to eat this thing. If you were trying to eat a piece of chocolate and it smelled like this, would you eat the chocolate?
No.
No. Imagine a predator coming up smelling that strong scent that looks like, oh, you guys just got to get a good shot of her jaws there. Imagine a strong scent like that. I know. And you're coming up to eat it and you're like, oh, I don't want to eat that stuff. Even if it looks like chocolate, it's going to taste terrible. It's really bugging my nose. All right, I'm going to let her go.
Yeah, let her go. She smells. She'll go. Oh.
She'll go eventually. You guys just hold still. She might come near you for a minute, but she won't do anything to you. She's going to probably head down to the water. We let the water snake go, and it made its way down to the lake, where it swam out a ways and then dove down to find some shelter. Did you guys know that I'm selling this stuff now? If you go to, you ever heard of Marshall Fields?
Yeah.
I'm selling what's called water snake musk.
You're crazy.
You've told me that before.
I know.
That smells terrible.
I can't smell anything.
Can't wait to figure out.
It's in the water. Are we gonna keep
Oh no!
it? Looks like a
While some of the campers told me over and over how bad I smelled thanks to the snake, Zach was busy trying to catch a leopard frog next to the dock. Okay, let's keep him so he doesn't get on the hole.
water. It's like a picture.
Actually, that is definitely a leopard.
Yeah. It looks sort of like
It does look like a pickerel because it has the lines.
Yeah.
Well, and another way you can tell is by, see the spots on him? Well, that usually means a pickerel with the yellow legs. But he doesn't have the, the rectangular border spots, and he's got darker. When the spots are lined by a light color, it's a pickerel frog, but they usually have, that's what's kind of weird about this one. And this kind of goes along with something that I've been reading about, well, I've read about it the last few years, is pickerel frogs are poisonous to predators, to a lot of predators. And their warning signs are the yellow under their legs. And they were saying, and the coloration, they were saying that, what I was reading from a couple different authors, one guy, James Harding, who's a real specialist on this stuff, he was saying that leopard frogs are starting to mimic, starting to look more and more like pickerel frogs. And they were starting to have a little bit of yellow underneath on the groin area, and they were starting to have more of the coloration of a pickerel frog. And this one does. It has the dorsolateral ridge color, the light color, just like a pickerel frog does. And it also has a little bit of yellow underneath. However, it's got the round spots that have dark borders, where a pickerel frog has, they usually have like more rectangular spots, and they have a light border around the rectangles. And they usually only have 2 rows right down the back. You guys see how those aren't really rows, they're kind of spread out in circles. So that's how you tell the difference between pickerel, and you guys can still smell me, can't you?
Yeah.
I think we'll take a stop at the bathroom and let me wash up. After a quick stop at the restroom to at least try to wash the smell off my hands, we made our way over to a nearby dock. Within just a few minutes there, we caught a juvenile common snapping turtle that was just hanging out in the shallow water. Back of the shelf. You guys see the bottom there, the plastron that we talked about? Mm-hmm. See how small it is, how much meat's exposed? If this got flipped over, do you think something could bite into it real easy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's one of the reasons the snapping turtles are so aggressive, especially when they're bigger. All he knows right now is he needs water. He's like, get me in water.
Can you do impressions with him?
What's that? Do impressions with him?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys think he just hatched?
No. Yeah.
He's probably a little big to be just hatched, right?
Yeah, he looks funny in the camera. Looks like he might have had. Can you do the Arnold Schwarzenegger voice?
Yep. I am just going to try to get onto the camera. Someday I will be governor of the Snapping Turtle Land. Hello, my name is Arnold Snapper. I am going to be running for governor within your state. It does not matter that I was born a snapping turtle. You can fix the laws. I have confidence in you. If you don't, I will terminate you. We let Arnold Snapper go so he could plan his future political strategies, and then we left the lake area to make our way back into the woods. What it looks like? One of our first catches that we made in the woods was a wood frog. This frog is easily recognized by the black mask that covers its eyes, which we often compare to the mask of Batman.
I'm Bat Frog.
That sounds like a chicken dance.
That sure did.
No.
Let's see if I can
I'm
see.
Chicken Dance Batman.
Little
That's a
baby.
juvenile. Bat frog.
Yeah, there we
actually a
go.
wood
That's okay.
frog.
I got it. I got it now.
Wood frog.
Try to go, let him go.
You should let him go in the wood frog cave. While Zach was letting the wood frog go, Riley, Douglas, and Aaron were busy catching a large green frog.
I caught this one. It's a girl.
It's a girl? How do you know it's a girl?
Because
you can catch a green frog out in the water.
its ear is about
As long as you're careful.
as big as its eye, and it's pregnant. I'm gonna go let him go now.
Okay.
Thanks to a few calls from some friends, we knew that a big storm was headed our way, so we decided it would be best to leave the woods and find some shelter. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Team Reptile Adventures.